house was about. It was about police reformation. It was about building good welfare for these people. It's about giving them good accommodation. It's about giving them good welfare package. It's about assuring their families that when your breadwinners die in line of action, you will not be thrown out of the barracks like garbage. You're going to be well taken care of. That was what the house was about. So the President is asking for more money, more funding. I think they deserve it. It's very simple. Combating crime or security is not a cheap business anywhere in the world, Sandra. It is not a cheap business. So if we continue to pay lip service to the Nigerian police welfare, it's going to affect us on how we combat crime as every month, Sandra. So it's very simple.
All right, so more details on page 5 of the Nation newspaper. Moving on now, very quickly. Kanu to court, free me. And that is on page 4 of the Nation. So the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, has asked the Supreme Court to compel the federal government to release him in compliance with the October 13th judgment of the Court of Appeal. All right, and I know we've been having this back and forth conversation. We've had to bring in some lawyers to actually enlighten us, because Malami said, they have what's that word again, execution of stay, request for stay of execution. Thank you. Stay of execution, so that they have that and they filed it, so they can still hold him even or despite the fact that the court had actually discharged him. All right, but here he is. He has filed an appeal that the court should order the federal government, or compel, let me use the word that was used in the report, or compel the federal government to release him. Kanu is praying the Supreme Court to set aside the appeal court's judgment as it relates to issues 2, 3 and 5 formulated before the court. All right, and he's also asking or praying the Apex Court to direct the federal government to release him from the custody of the State Security Service. That's on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Also, above the masthead of the Nation, we have UK government okays £95 million for 4 million Nigerians, and that is on page 7 of the Nation newspaper. Just to throw more light into that, the UK has approved £95 million yes, Popcorn Pause investment that is set to benefit at least 4 million Nigerians, including 2 million women, to increase productivity and adapt to the effects of climate change, while at the same time reducing emissions. So at the summits, at the COP20 summits, there have been the conversation on the bigger nations, who are actually the cause for the emissions, the pollutions that the carbon emissions and the pollution that's one of the things that's propelling the climate change issues, that they should pay the poorer countries or the developing countries that are most affected by the climate change. So that's where this conversation is going, and that is on page 7 of the Nation newspaper. 2023 elections, what are the big four offering? That's a question on, and where you have a report, an extensive report actually, on page, it's a very long read, I don't know how we're going to look deep into this, but it's a very extensive report. They're looking at the big four, and I'm sure you already know who these are: Tinubu, Atiku, Kwakwanso, Obi. Tinubu of the APC, Atiku of the PDP, Kwakwanso of the NNPP, and of course Obi of the Labour Party. And they're looking at economy, security, power, national question, anti-corruption battle. Okay, so the report is just looking deep into what each one of these candidates have said as regards the different sectors just mentioned. It's a very long one: fiscal policy, tax reforms, monetary policy, exchange rate management, housing. There's a whole lot, just as you have mentioned earlier, issue based, the main things that are directly affecting Nigerians. That is what we have here. It's a very long read. I don't know how we're going to look deep into this, but the manifestos of all of them actually underscores contrasting levels of knowledge, preparedness and appreciation. But if I were to ask you, looking at economy, security, power, national question, fiscal policies, tax reforms, the many different issues, agriculture, the many different issues that Nigerians are facing right now, do you think these four actually have what it takes? Do you think they have it locked down based on their manifestos, based on the appearances that they have had at different town hall meetings and summits and whatnot?
Talking of town hall meeting, the one that happened on Sunday, I don't know if you took anything out of that town hall meeting, but I did. I took a lot out of it. See, all of the big four, in quotes, have all released their policy papers. We always want to call it manifestos, but for me, I think that word has been abused. It's been badly abused. People just come in with what they think is what the country needs at the moment. I've read the renewed hope from Asura People Have Not Tinubu, the candidate of the APC. I've read my covenant from Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the candidate of the main opposition party, the PDP. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, the candidate of the NLP, had also chopped his own. There was a leak from the Labour Party a few days ago, I think last week Friday specifically, and then the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, came out to say that's not the final draft, and we are still waiting for the official final draft. But we also need to establish at this point that none of the top four, none of the big four are new to policies or economies of this country. Atiku Abubakar was the former vice president for 8 years in this country. Tinubu was the former governor of the largest economy in Nigeria, which is the Lagos state government, and of course one-time senator. Peter Obi was two-term governor, 8 years of Anambra State. And in fact, Rabi Musa Kwankwaso seems to have the biggest...
Can you please, just quickly wrap it up for me, because we have so many other stories. Yeah.
Rabi Musa Kwankwaso has like the biggest profile, being the former Minister of Defense, former two-term governor of Kano State, the present senator. So all of them understand the problem that we have in this country. But my concern is that a lot of them have not prioritized the things that need to be prioritized. Now, the thing is this. The economy, the national discourse is supposed to be the priority. All of the security challenges that we're having, all of the economic challenges that we're having, all of the infrastructural decay that we're having is because we've not been able to define the national conversation. What is empowering leadership in this country? Why do we have leaders that are trained in sentiment? They don't care who does the job. They are only interested in how to sell their own ideology. That is what national discourse is about. Why do we have insecurity in this country? Why do we have kidnappings in this country? Why do we have people that are deliberately sabotaging the economy of this country? Why are we having 100 million barrels being imported into this country and just 42 million are going?
Are you saying that based on all what they have said, do you think that any one of them actually, you don't need to mention names, but do you think any one of them actually has the grasp of what, the situation is, the state of the nation?
Ideally they should, but realistically I'm not sure any of them understand the mess we are in right now.
All right. Well, more details on it's a very, very long read, pages 2. You also continues on page 5. On page 2, and then continues on page 5, and so on like that. All right. Still on the Nation newspaper, ASU rejects payment of half salaries to members. That's on page 28 of the Nation. We also are finally here. $2 billion required to complete Ajaokuta, says Minister. That's another long read that we don't unfortunately have the time to look deep into. You're listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM, and it's page 7. That's for that Ajaokuta story. Let's quickly move on. We still have 3 more papers. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to look deep into them, but I'll just quickly run through the headlines. The major headline from the Guardian newspaper: diesel, gas prices compound forex woes, inflation outlook. So after weeks of relief, diesel prices appear to be on the rise again, partly in response to the volatility in the energy market over concerns about supply from Europe and unstable foreign exchange rates. So for many businesses right now, sustaining production might not be business as usual, and that is especially a time when inflation has eroded customers or consumers' purchasing power, and inventory of unsold goods continues to rise as it is now. Because I mean, I don't know if people can actually go on with production when with sales when people are not actually buying and you still have goods in stock, if you can even continue with production. But more details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have here insecurity, Nigerians worried over threat to 2023 polls despite assurances. That is on page 6. Opa, very quickly, do you think that we're set as regards security for the elections? Remember that just recently, they disbursed or dispatched some new, equipments and weapons and ammunitions and gadgets for the Nigeria police.
Sandra, I'm really optimistic. I want to trust INEC, which is the primary player in this election. I know the pressure is building on them every day. I know President Buhari a couple of days still had to come out and tell INEC to be unbiased, told INEC to, very sincere in giving or conducting the election. So I want to trust INEC. But again, why are we even having security concerns in the line of election? It takes us back to what I just talked about, the national discourse. Should we not be excited that an election is going on? Should we not be happy that we are having the opportunity to change the fortune of this country via the ballots? Are we not excited to have election? So why are we having security concerns if the national discourse has been addressed? Why are they here bent on frustrating this country? Why don't they want us to make progress? Why should we be concerned that some people will probably disrupt the electoral process? I mean, that is where the front is coming from. So on the part of INEC, they've consistently assured us that the election is going to hold. They would continue to liaise with the security agencies, and I want to trust them to do that.
More details on page 6 of the Guardian. PDP denies resignation of PCC chair as aide tips Atiku to win despite rift. That's an interesting one. You can get more details on page 3. Court commits EFCC chairman to prison, directs IGP to execute order. That particular story, started trending yesterday evening, and it's as regards Abdul Rashid Bawa and a court order that was given since November 2018 on EFCC returning a car and some funds to a particular defendant, and it has not been done since then till now, which is why the court has committed the EFCC chairman to prison and also has directed the Inspector General of Police to ensure that that order is actually done. Thus, Bawa going to Kuje prison. I don't know, but I will get more details of that. It was quite, yesterday evening. I'm sure you must have got wind of that particular story. But more details on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. ASU forecloses fresh strike, decries half pay. This is not something I would like us to, totally put a lot of focus on, because just so that we won't have to, make people start, oh no, we just go back from one. Are we really going to go back to another one? Hopefully, the mediation that the National Assembly has been doing, led by the Speaker, Baja Bamila, would be able to bring in some sort of closure to this particular issue as negotiations are still ongoing. That's on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. 90% of leaders shy from observing corporate governance, and that's on page 4. And that's that particular statement is coming from IOD. So that's Institute of Directors. All right, yes, Institute of Directors, that's where that one is coming from, and you can get more details on page 4. Also, we have here, finally, from the Guardian newspaper, new Naira notes, good policy, bad timing. And that is on page 12 of the Guardian newspaper. When we had this conversation on Mainland Focus, that was this particular statement was the majority of the response that we got from the listeners. The fact that yes, it's a good thing, we understand where they're coming from, but not at this time, not so close to election period, not so close to the end of the year, not when the Naira right now the value is somewhere in the tank, and not now that inflation is everywhere, and there's so many reasons why why people felt this was bad timing. But they agree that it may be a good thing to work fluid. But what are your own personal thoughts as regards that? Very, very quickly, please.
I think as far back as my secondary school days, I've understood the main cause of inflation, which is too much money in circulation. And that's where we are right now in this country. Unfortunately, the problem of having this much money in circulation is very clear. You can't take it away from election. I think I've talked about the fact that it's a beautiful, policy, like a lot of experts and policy makers, analysts have talked about. But in the timing, there's going to pump in a lot of pressure on all of the agencies, even the banks. So this is supposed to probably take us like a whole year to implement, and we're looking at 7 to 8 weeks as it is now. So, but then desperate times, desperate measures would follow. So it's something we need to deal with. It's going to really pump in pressure on the foreign exchange. It's going to probably scare a lot of investors away, especially at this time of the year, at the end of the year. But at the long run, Sandra, we should be able to sustain this policy and see it through. If we're able to do that, if we're able to pull out all of these monies out of circulation, I think we'll just see some form of growth.
Okay.
It's been so gloomy. We just need some big difference. That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. As we said, more details on page 12 of the Guardian newspaper. The Punch, the major headline from the Punch newspaper: 2023 polls subject presidential candidates and others to psychiatric test. And that's coming from National Medical Association and Nigerian Medical Association, NMA. Okay, and the writers to that: those with untreatable mental neurological problems should not lead, says NMA. Medical body offers to set up panel of renowned specialists to do the screening. We should test our presidential candidates to check their mental health or psychological health. That's how I'm going to put it, but that's coming from the NMA, and more details on page 2. We don't have time to actually discuss that. We actually run out of time, but still on the front page of the Punch newspaper: COP27, federal government eyes $400 billion for energy transition plan. That's on page 25. ASU awaits court ruling on half pay. That's on page 10. Nigeria, 16 countries to fight money laundering and terrorism. That's on page 18. Awarding Qatar World Cup a mistake, Blatter regrets. That's former FIFA president. That is on page 47 of the Punch newspaper. We also have here Hush Puppy jailed 11 years despite wife Imam's pleas. That's on pages 4 and 5. And Celestial Church members mob Punchman, police probe attack. And that's on pages 4 and 5 also of the Punch newspaper. Unfortunately, we couldn't touch what is trending from the Vanguard, but we'll be back by 8:40 for Milan Focus. So stay with us, don't go anywhere. You're listening to Milan 98.3 FM, and we are the sound of Lagos.
It's road